Hey y'all, welcome to I Got a Story to Tell. I'm your host, Niambi Kiesha, holistic wellness practitioner, hoodoo spiritist, and Bronx native. And during our time together, I will share some of my musings on all things life, spirit, plants, and parenting. So get comfortable and let's dive right in. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of the I Got a Story to Tell podcast. I'm your host, Niambi Kiesha, and I'm excited to be back here with you guys again this week. Last week was a heck of a week for me. When I say that life was lifing, I mean, it really was so much so that I didn't even realize that I had not recorded an episode for last week until this weekend. There were just things going on in my work life. There were things that needed my attention in my home life. And I really just didn't get around to it. And when I started thinking about what I wanted to talk about this week, all of that came back to the surface for me. Last week, there was a lot going on astrologically. And some of the things that were going on astrologically, looking back on it, lent itself to there being sort of attention or astrology that needed us to pull something forward. It wasn't the most smoothest sailing astrology. It was astrology that needed us or required us to reflect on some things. There was some positioning with Saturn. There was the 888 portal on Thursday. There was the full moon in Aquarius on Friday. And I'll go into what each of those mean a little bit more as we continue, but it just made me realize that life is always going to ebb and flow. And it's important when we have endeavors, when we have projects, when we have dreams, when we have things that we're working on. It's important for this very reason that we have a solid foundation for our why, that we can be reminded about why we are doing a thing, and that why be tied to something that is important to us, that is at our core, right? So chasing fame or chasing money or chasing success, whatever your definition of success is, oftentimes will prove not a solid enough foundation to help you move through the tough times, right? And stay on track or and get back on track, right? So it may have just been 1 week, but for me, it takes a level of effort for me to record, for me to decide what I want to speak about when I record. One thing that I always decided that I will remain true to, and this is even when I was doing my lives on Instagram, I've always said that if I don't really have something to say, I'm never going to come on, record, create content, whatever you want to call it, for the sake of, right? For the sake of, it says you have to be consistent, or for the sake of just putting something up. I'm not going to do that because my foundation, the reason behind my why, the reason why I open my mouth and I share is that I know spirit uses me, works through me to bring a message forth. And so there may be times like last week where the message was put your head down, right? And handle what you need to handle for you. Last week, my message was you need to pay attention to some things. You need to work through some things. You need to have enough quiet and solitude to integrate some lessons. And in doing that, there was no recording last week, right? But I had to remind myself of that so that I then could say, but now here today, I do have something to share. I do want to share about how I moved through that time and space last week and how I feel the energetic shift. Part of what I intend to talk about during our time together today is how we can use the energy in the cosmos to support us. I talk about that all the time, that astrology is not just zodiacs and knowing that a Leo is this and a Scorpio is that. There is a whole number of things, a whole number of placements, transits, configurations that are happening. And when we think about as above, so below, right? So going into that number 8, that infinity sign, August being the 8th month, the 888 portal last week, there are things that are happening above that are impacting our below, right? And so being aware of that, one, if you can gain enough awareness of it to be able to plan based on it, I think that's the ideal. That's the ideal scenario. I'm still working to that point because there are times where for me hindsight becomes 2020, right? And so I can hear that X, Y, and Z is about to unfold and it may touch this part of our lives, this part of our lives, this part of our lives. But sometimes I'm not 100% sure how to put things in place ahead of time. That's something that I'm working on. What I do know is that when I know that the astrology is going to be, more tense astrology, not smooth sailing, what I will try to do is like not overburden my calendar. I try to leave enough space. I try to make sure I have space between my meetings, right? We talk about Mercury being retrograde and that being the planet of communication. And so I try not to schedule meetings back to back to back because maybe it might take me a little bit more time to get from one meeting to another. Or if communication is a little bit wonky, my thoughts might not flow as smoothly, or everybody's thoughts might not be flowing as smoothly. And so, what could be a 15-minute meeting in astrology that supports communication could turn into a 45-minute meeting under astrology that signifies that communication is challenging. So that's just an example of how, when I say use the astrology to your benefit, allowing your life to be set up in a way that makes it a little bit easier. Or when the astrology is positive, like I'm going to talk about this week, then maybe you do cram in a little bit more because your energy is going to be high. If there's astrology that says that Mars, which is the planet of action, but Mars also talks about our physical body, right? Then if Mars is in a positive way, then it's likely that you will have more energy, that you will, be able to move through things smoother. And so maybe you do take a few more meetings on those weeks. It's realizing that we can use this information to our benefit and not only allow it to be to our detriment, or not continue to not take it into account and live our lives to our detriment, right? So I know I just jumped right in there because, like I said, last week was a very stuck feeling week for me. So even if I would have tried to record, I can anticipate that I probably would have struggled with the words flowing, with the thoughts flowing, with the energy flowing, with the connections and the aha moments flowing. So yeah, so that's just where we are. Like I said, last week, no episode. This week, I want to talk about some things that unfolded astrologically last week, what that looked like in my life, and already the one thing that I'll hit on right now is I'm recording this on Monday. It'll be Tuesday by the time you guys see it or after. But August 11th, Mercury station direct. So Mercury had been retrograde. And there was definitely not the entire retrograde season, but last week for sure, for me, there was a and it wasn't really a stuck feeling. Because sometimes when I think of stuck, it feels like I'm trying to move forward, right? Like being in what is it called? Sinking sand. Um, but it wasn't a stuck feeling. It was more so like there was work to be done right here where I was. So I could not move to the next thing because this thing, this area, these things that were unfolded and these little fires that were popping off left and right last week, they needed me to be there. And so there was definitely a feeling of not a feeling of progress. It was a it lacked the feeling or the energy of forward movement, which for me is uncomfortable. If you know me in real life, you know that I'm a forward moving person, right? So I have a lot of fire in my chart, specifically Aries. Aries is a cardinal fire sign. So the cardinal signs start off um the cycle. Cardinal signs, cardinal energy starts things, and fire is action. So Aries is initiation of action. It is beginning a new thing. It is starting something. It is moving something forward. And I have Aries in multiple placements in my chart. My moon, my Venus, my Mercury, my Mars, and my I have one other thing in Aries. I can't remember what the fifth one was, but I think it's my midheaven. But it's to say, for me, action comes easy. It comes um quickly. It is my comfort zone. It is, and it's interesting because I'm a Taurus sun, right, which is a fixed earth sign. So what I've come to realize is that in my personal life, my Taurus sun tends to show up more, right? But in my outward world, I am an initiator of things, of action. And last week that was kind of stalled out. And so it's, how do I not get down on myself? How do I continue to remind myself while I'm in that space that this is only temporary, right? And what is it that you probably should be doing during this time? That's the other thing that astrology helps us unpack, that there is a reason for these times of reflection, these times of slowdown. When we have retrogrades, it is the opportunity to reflect, to reassess, to, and it's necessary. Like you cannot always be forward moving, full steam ahead. It is necessary to slow down for a number of different reasons, right? So even though I feel forward energy today with Mercury station in direct, there's also a transit or a cosmic alignment going on between Venus and Jupiter. And Venus is the planet of love and abundance and beauty, and Jupiter is the planet of expansion. So part of what I'm going to do today in a slow down type of way is some self care, is when I'm done with this recording, tending to myself, because we are having Mercury station direct means that our communication is about to move forward. Things that were sort of paused and on hold are about to move forward. So I'm anticipating things to pick up steam over the next couple of weeks. And in preparation for that, I'm going to slow down in this moment on this day and tend to myself and tend to my environment and tend to, all things that are represented by Venus, right? So that that can expand as well while it has the energy of Jupiter together with it. So, I also mentioned last week on Thursday was the Lionsgate portal, the 8-8 Lionsgate portal. And that portal, depending on, you know, your beliefs and what you understand and what you subscribe to, is two things that's going on. So there is astrology, what is actually happening in the sky. There is numerology, right? So eight has certain properties. Like I said, eight is the infinity sign, as above, so below. So simply being the eighth day of the eighth month, you are going to have that number eight energy, that manifestation energy, that bringing things to pass energy magnified on that day. Additionally, the Lionsgate portal is also tied to cosmic movement around the Sirius constellation. Is it a constellation? The star. It's a star. And so, if you believe in that, if you believe in other realms and other dimensions, and the idea that there are moments when the veil is thin, a portal is just a doorway, it's an access point. And so, with the 8-8 portal, it starts, I think, about July 26, 27, and it is at its peak on 8-8. And so it means that during that window of time, there is an opportunity for us to receive information, light codes, downloads, right? To our being, to our DNA, to our spiritual selves, right? There is more to who we are than our physical body, even though we are moving through this physical experience. And so there's the two sides of the 8-8 portal. Either way, if you believe or if you subscribe to spirituality, astrology, numerology, some level of connection with the non physical, that day was a very powerful day. And so when we have those moments, again, it came in conjunction with some other things. For me, it came in conjunction, well, for all of us, it came in conjunction with the Mercury retrograde. But for me, it required slowing down and reassessing of certain parts of my life and certain areas of my life that happened to be the areas that were challenging me last week. And I was able to see that connection and connect those dots, which then allowed me to approach the challenge from a place of openness, of curiosity, of willingness to receive the lessons, to receive the information, not even necessarily lessons. I was talking to a girlfriend last week and I was like, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, I'm fully learned, right? Like, I don't need no more lessons. I think, language, I heard someone say that spoken language is oftentimes the least effective method of communication because we only have the words that we have. Our brain is used to using certain words to achieve or to express certain things. So sometimes we go to default language, and lessons is one of those. I don't believe that everything is a lesson, meaning like, oh, I'm going to teach you a lesson in the way that we think about it in this human experience, but just information, always being willing to absorb new information. If you are a lifelong learner, if you are someone that believes that as long as we are in this physical experience, there is more evolution available to us, then the way that you continue to evolve is by taking in new information, processing it, integrating it, and how you get that information can come from various sources and various ways. And so sometimes it's spoken information, sometimes it's information that comes through downloads, through meditation, through quieting our voice, through simmering down our physical body and allowing our spiritual body to take center stage, allowing our mind to slow down all of the thoughts, allowing our conscious to step aside and let our subconscious take center stage. And for me, that's a lot of what was unfolding last week. That during the week, a number of things were happening. And then once we got to the weekend, I allowed myself the quiet and the solitude and the meditative space and being outdoors in the sun, feet in the grass. And some days I even just sat in my car. I like to sit in my car. I open my sunroof so I don't always have to get out. I can sit in my car when it's raining, but it still allows me to be outward, to be out amongst nature and allow the messages from the animals, from the spirit realm, from the ancestors, from the insects, allow the heat of the sun and the moisture of the rain, allow all of that to engulf me and to penetrate and to help me integrate what I experienced in the physical. And so all of that to say, I had to honor that this is what was going on last week, and that attempting to force myself to record an episode for the sake of maintaining a weekly episode would have not been honoring what I needed, would not have been honoring what I am committed to bring into this space, right? And for me, integrity, always showing up in my integrity, always showing up with the message, not what Niambi has to say, but the message that has been given for me to bring forth. Always remaining aware and conscious of that is top priority for me. And I'm confident that if I do that, all else will be in alignment. If I stay on course with my inner being, my higher self, my spirit guides, my team, God, right? If I stay on course in those ways, nothing that's for me can miss me. Nothing that is for me will make its way to me and leave me, right? And so it's just really important that when we find ourselves in these, not only in these times, but when we find ourselves embarking on an endeavor, being able to suss out. Now, don't get me wrong, there were weeks when maybe I was just tired or didn't feel like it or had some doubt or hesitation about what the message needed to be. Did anybody want to hear what I had to say? And yes, I had to push through those. Part of the process is being able to identify and know the difference, right? Being able to identify when you need to press forward, because pressing forward is within you, is keeping your integrity, right? When you need to do what you don't feel like doing because it's the right thing to do, you need to be able to tell the difference versus when your body, your mind, your spirit, your guide, your team is saying, not now, not today, because we're walking this thing out first. And if you trust me and you walk this thing out first, it will give you what you need in order to pour into this thing, right? So I touched on the 888 portal. Then on Friday, we had a full moon in Aquarius. Again, very interesting energy, at least for me. Full moons are the point in the lunar cycle. It's the halfway point in the lunar cycle. And it's the point in the lunar cycle where typically you are reassessing, rethinking, what intentions you set 2 weeks prior under the new moon. And the new moon is for planting seeds, is for manifesting. And let me just say one thing about that. I watched something over the weekend, and what the person shared, which made perfect sense and resonated with me, is that understand that we're always manifesting. We are always manifesting. What we put our intention on from our thought becomes part of our physical experience. That's what manifestation is. So there was a lot of back and forth about whether or not 888 is the ideal time to manifest, or is it a holding time? Should you manifest under Mercury retrograde, or is it a holding time? Should you manifest under full moon energy, or is it a holding time? Know that one, you are always manifesting, and you can never, ever, ever go wrong by intentionally tuning up your energy, by intentionally catching negative thoughts and replacing them with positive thoughts, by intentionally releasing patterns and behaviors that no longer serve you. You can never go wrong doing that. But are there times and energies that will support it better? Yes. Are those times and energies the same for every person? No. And that's what I've come to learn, that depending on what is going on in your astrological chart, right? So I said we had a full moon in Aquarius. Aquarius is about the mind. Aquarius is an air sign. Its symbol is the water bearer. So some people think it's a water sign. It's not. Water signs are about emotion, air signs are about thoughts, mental space. If you know an Aquarius, they move a little bit different, they have their own little way. And so when you have a full moon in an air sign such as Aquarius, that is about our thoughts and our thought process, but is also the humanitarian of the zodiac, right? That means that there's something that needs your mental, that needs attention about how you're processing, about your thoughts. And that something depends on where Aquarius is in your natal chart. And so that's why it's not so cut and dry as to say everything is for everybody all the time. Every transit impacts every person the same way. It doesn't. It simply does not. Right. And so that is why on the last episode, I talked about downloading an app. Again, I recommend the Channy app, but whatever app that you have, if you are truly interested in learning how to use astrology for more than just your horoscope, you need to have a chart. You need to have an app so that you can access your chart. You need to be able to dig in, right? And understand. So let's say I'm gonna pull up the Channy app right now, as a matter of fact. Let's see. And I can tell you guys from my chart, right? So for me, Aquarius is in my seventh house, right? And it is where my descendant is. And so your descendant in your chart is about your committed relationships, right? And so what does that look like when we're talking about a full moon in Aquarius, right? In my seventh house, where my descendant sign is. It means that I am being asked to reflect on my thoughts, beliefs, processing around my committed relationships. It's under a full moon, so it may be the opportunity to release what no longer serves me, about how I show up in committed relationships, about how I approach committed relationships, about the committed relationships that are currently in my life, and about the committed relationships to come. So I was able to narrow down what I put my attention on, what I realized was coming up for me over those past couple of days, and how it synced up with where Aquarius was or is in my chart. So I'm gonna show you guys. This is what. Let's see. Can you see it? Okay. Can you see it? Let's see. Okay. So I think you could see it. But essentially, like I shared, the zodiac is like a pizza pie. And all of the signs, right, is 12 slices of the pizza pie. Each sign is on a slice of pizza. Each slice of pizza is a house. So Aquarius is on the seventh slice of pizza, right? So if you number the slices of pizza 1 through 12, that's the houses. Aquarius is on my seventh slice of pizza. And the seventh slice of pizza for everybody, the seventh house is about committed relationships. You just have to look and see which sign your seventh house is in, and are there any planets or stars or constellations. So it's kind of layered, but the reason why I take the time to explain how layered it is because to truly allow it to support you, to truly allow it to get to the point, like I said in the beginning, where you can utilize this information to plan ahead. You have to get beyond just the horoscopes or, the stereotypical this sign is that sign is that. Okay? So that's why I wanted to talk about how to use cosmic energy to our advantage, or just how to use it, period. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, like I said, when I was talking about when we receive information, that we receive information from various sources, right? We have the image of the chakras here. Those are energy centers throughout our body. So, what I'm talking about right now in terms of receiving information is non physical, non verbal, right? Spiritual information that penetrates your subconscious, like I said, information and downloads, awarenesses, and awakenings that happen through meditation, through silencing the voice. And sometimes when those things are happening, they come with what is considered ascension symptoms, meaning you can feel physical symptoms associated with this information that you're receiving. For some people, certain joints will ache. For some people, they'll feel pain in their lower back. For some people, they may feel headaches. For some people, they may feel exhaustion and unexplainable fatigue. For some people, they may feel dehydration. It can be a whole host of things. Now, hear me and hear me well. The first time it happens, you should take care of yourself. You should, if it is excruciating pain, you should go see your doctor. You should have any medical cause being ruled out. But what I will say is that as you move through the process, the symptoms will oftentimes become repetitive. The same way when you connect with spirit, when people ask me, like, Niambi, when you say talk to your people, they'll talk back. Um, they will oftentimes talk back in the same way, right? So you might have an ancestor that when they need your attention, they make that right ear ring. And some people will be like, oh, well, it's just your ear ringing. Okay, it might just be your ear ringing. But once I've established a form of contact and communication with my ancestors, because you can ask questions, is that you? What do you want? Communicate. But if you do these practices regularly, you will have downloads and moments of ascension or evolution, awakening all throughout your life. So the symptoms can come back in similar forms, right? So in my body, I can tell when I am experiencing ascension symptoms versus if I'm having a physical issue. And here's the thing, sometimes I can't at first. Sometimes when it first starts, I feel like I'm getting sick. But then I'm like, okay, well, I think I'm getting sick. Let me boost up my vitamin C, or let me get my immune system in order, or let me get more rest, or let me make sure I'm hydrated, or let me go for a walk, or whatever. But then if I address it and they remain, without a shadow of a doubt, my next thing is like, well, what is going on in the cosmos? Bam, something is usually going on in the cosmos. Or I slow myself down, go into a meditation, and inquire about whether or not I'm in an ascension state. None of this is beyond asking the questions. It's just being able to hear answers in communication in forms other than verbal, right? I mean, we all communicate beyond verbal. We've all met somebody and just be like, oh, her energy is just off. Oh, you know what? When I met her, I don't know what it was about her, but she just had such good energy. Like anytime I was around her, I just really felt good. Or I was standing around these people and I could just tell that something wasn't right. And the next thing I knew, everybody took off. And we communicate. We communicate with babies. We communicate with children. There is nonverbal communication that happens all of the time. It's just that when we start having conversations about it, then some people want to attach, less than positive things to it. But we have five senses, right? Like we can, it's for a reason. Is our only form of communication is not intended to be yak 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 yakking, right? You can taste something and taste whether or not it's good or poisonous. You can smell it. You can look at things. That's a form of communication. If I look at you and I'm kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like we can communicate. And so it's understanding that nonverbal communication is a very real thing. And the best way to receive it is to quiet the noise of the verbal communication. And even the noise in our mind is a byproduct of the noise of verbal communication, which seems kind of sideways because I'm sitting here yakking my mouth to y'all on a podcast. But, obviously, I don't have another way to um, communicate this information. Or maybe I do. I'll think about that. But I'm just saying, know that when you are moving through these times and these these seasons of growth and expansion and evolution and releasing what no longer serves you, even when we talk about the full moon, know that when you release something that you've been holding on to and carrying for years, that it may come with some emotional release. It may come with different things unfolding in your body, in your awareness, because you are shedding, you are moving and slowly becoming a different person, right? So just know that as we move into this second half of the year, we're about to be moving into eclipse season soon. Just know that things will start to rev up again energetically, and you may begin to feel them, right? And then we'll begin to head into winter, where it'll be the time to slow down. It'll be the time to prepare to go inward and hibernate and, prepare for the cold of winter. So I just wanted to share that as well. And then the last piece that I wanted to share, when we are going through these different seasons and different transits and different things, is going back to that idea of manifestation, that we are always manifesting. It's just a matter of, are you doing it intentionally and deliberately, or are you just going along for the ride? Are you allowing negative thoughts to be what you continue to manifest and then open your eyes and wonder why your physical environment matches all of the stinking thinking in your brain, but you confuse that the good things that you say you want and you desire are not coming to pass in your reality? But what is your mind doing? Are you taking control? Are you being mindful when you first wake up in the morning? Are you intentional about what you let into your mind space, into your thought process before you even really get your eyes open good and start your day? Right. And so the fact that we are always manifesting gives us the opportunity to be intentional and deliberate, to set aside time, to set aside a few minutes whenever, in the morning, midday, evening, whatever serves you, right? But that time to quiet, to simmer down, to visualize. So that's what I wanted to hand in hand, manifestation and visualization. I talk all the time about when is the last time you daydreamed? When is the last time you laid out in a park and looked at the clouds and just figured out what kind of shapes did you see? When is the last time you just let yourself be without a to-do list, without all of these thoughts running through your brain, without the stress and the frustration and of thing on top of thing? When is the last time? And if it's been a while, you might want to consider doing that. If you do it regularly, keep up the good work, because I'm sure that you are seeing evidence of the fruits of your labor. If you've just started and you haven't seen the evidence of the fruits of your labor just yet, stay the course. Continue forward and know that the evidence of what you see, let's say if you 25, 30, 35, the evidence of what you see may be the evidence of 15 years of stinking thinking, right? It does not have to take another 15 for you to turn it around, but you just have to truly believe that your thoughts alone are powerful enough to turn it around. If you have a dream and somebody asks you, what do you need to bring this to pass? If the first thing you say is not, all I need to do is believe that it can happen, then I invite you to revisit that. We have to understand the power of our thoughts and releasing the how. If I believe it, it will come to pass one way or another, according to my plan or not. But if God, Spirit, the divine, gave me the desire, because I don't have a desire for everything. This is something else I was talking to somebody about. I don't desire everything. Everybody doesn't desire everything. So I believe if I have the desire, it's because there is a version of me living the experience. And that version of me needs this version of me to have the desire to start to plant the seed so that version of me can continue living in what it is that we collectively bring to pass, right? There, this current version of me understood how instrumental yoga would be in my life. And this version of me understood how important the foundation of yoga beyond yoga on the mat would be for my journey and for me living out my dream, my calling as a holistic wellness practitioner. This version of Niambi was aware of that. And this version of Niambi is living that out right now. This version of Niambi is a certified yoga instructor. This version of Niambi is a meditation facilitator. This version of Niambi is a hoodoo spiritist. This version of Niambi studies and practices astrology, because this version of Niambi sent the desire, right? 46-year-old Niambi sent the desire to 41-year-old Niambi. And through that desire, 41-year-old Niambi sought out where she would get her yoga teacher training. And through that desire, 41-year-old Niambi took her training and connected with other spiritists and learned about hoodoo and began that path in that journey so that this version of 46-year-old Niambi could exist. Time is not linear. It is circular. Okay? It is all happening at the same time and not happening at all. And we are intertwining and we are sending messages back and forth and we are reassuring various versions of ourselves on this time, this time and space continuum. But in order for this version of me to be here, a seed had to be planted. So I'm confident that the desires that I have right now, the things that I desire right now, I desire them because a future version of me knows that I need the seed to be planted in order for the physical manifestation to arrive. So there's no desire that I get that that I don't believe I'm able to bring to pass. No matter how big the dream, no matter how expansive, no matter how out of this world, no matter nobody in my line has ever done this, no matter, I know that my thoughts, my connections, my subconscious, my spirit self, my higher self, my spirit team, I know what we're capable of. And that reassures me every day that I get up. And so it helps me go through weeks where it's less than pleasant, weeks where it feels heavy. Because I know it's just a matter of time before I'm able to integrate it and put that puzzle piece where it belongs as part of this life of mine. Knowing what we are capable of gives me the confidence to go forth, open my mouth, speak up, right? Speak my truth, show up as myself, right? And just be reminded of the power beyond this physical being, of my thoughts, of my spirit, of my emotions, of my heart. And if we could tap into that and stay tapped in and then use the tools, astrology is a tool, meditation is a tool, yoga is a tool. I say this all the time. These are just tools. It's like being in the kitchen and knowing what you need to mix this salad and make this soup and put this seasoning in. So it's finding the tools, also the tools that resonate with you. Astrology might not resonate with everybody. It resonates with me, and so it makes perfect sense, right? Being an earth warrior, being out in nature, feet in the grass, shamanic work, that might not resonate with everybody. It resonates with me. So that's what I share about. But there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? There's more than one path. There's more than one form of healing. There's more than one form of wellness. There's more than one way to come into community. So finding your tools that can help you manage and navigate your life deliberately and with intention is the goal. And then just to make sure you do it with some joy. I'm always going to add that piece in there. Make sure that you are doing it with some joy. Make sure that you have beautiful flowers if flowers bring you joy. Make sure that you eat some chocolate if chocolate brings you joy. Make sure that you go to the beach or you go to the pool or you go to the mountains or you go hiking or you lay on your couch and watch TV, binge watch TV. Somebody asked me, what's an acceptable number of episodes of a series to watch in one sitting? I said 2 to 3, 5 on the weekend. Because as far as I'm concerned, most series are about an hour long. If you watch 2 to 3, it's like the equivalent of watching a movie. 5 on the weekend is like watching 2 movies, right? But figure out what makes you laugh. Figure out what feels good. And that part is not always easy. I share this often too, right? I love to laugh. I love to have a good time. I can be very intense. I can be very serious. And so I have to remind myself sometimes that my laughter and my joy is just as important as any seriousness that I bring to the table. So find your tools, live your life with intention, deliberately, and with joy. There's nothing else for us to do. If we do that, we will achieve whatever it is that we desire to achieve, whatever measure of success it is that we have. That is the path. Okay? All right. So, y'all have an amazing week, and God willing, we'll be back for another episode next week. All right. Y'all take care.